Breathing forms are the primary source of Demon Slayer's characteristics and power inside of Demon Slayer, allowing Slayers to use superhuman abilities to stand up to demons and not only match them, but surpass them in power in many instances. Within total concentration breathing, the power system of Demon Slayer, there's obviously a lot of variety of skills and styles. You've got your basic elements like water, fire, electricity, and their respective water breathing, flame breathing, and thunder breathing. But characters also have unique breathing styles catered to themselves, such as insect breathing and beast breathing. Breathing forms are techniques that fall under these categories of breathing techniques, and a lot of these breathing forms specifically are pretty basic. You have things like water wheel, thunderclap and flash, etc. But at the same time, there's a lot of ultimate moves, quote unquote, that can push these Demon Slayers to straight up overpowered tiers. And these are things like some of the sun breathing abilities, Dead Calm, Rengoku's ninth form, abilities that just go above and beyond normal breathing forms and are just extremely powerful. So that got me thinking, what are the best forms one could have to be the strongest Demon Slayer possible? If you were able to RPG create a character and just pick the best breathing forms or strongest, what forms would you actually choose? So I devised a list of some of the strongest breathing forms there are from all the different breathing styles and came up with what I think are the 5 strongest forms in the series. I put one minor rule in place to make sure the list wasn't redundant, that one being no duplicate breathing styles. So if a water breathing technique is on the list, no other water breathing techniques are allowed. I know that's somewhat arbitrary, but it makes the list more diverse and honestly just more fun to make for me. And let's be real, it keeps the list from having like 6 sun breathing forms. One last thing I want to mention, and this is very important, is I'm not taking the character's power into account. So just because someone like Giyu is the strongest doesn't automatically mean stone breathing is going to be number 1. I'm going to assume all these abilities would be used by someone of the same ability level for each of them. But if we know an ability is outright faster or stronger than the rest of the forms, I will take that into account when appropriate. Once again, something like Giyu's Dead Calm is just stronger than his other water breathing forms, so that's sort of the thing I'm talking about here. One other thing is I didn't want to include demon breathing forms, and I know Kokushibo had moon breathing before he became a demon, but I specifically wanted to focus on the Demon Slayers and their breathing forms. So Kaigaku and Kokushibo are excluded from this list. That's enough preamble though, and let's begin with the number 5 breathing style on the list. As it turns out, I'm actually a liar. We're going to start off with some honorable mentions, and I know it's pretty common that these come at the end of videos right before number 1 is revealed, but I don't know, I think it just makes more sense to talk about them before the list, because by the time you get to number 1, you kind of have an idea of what isn't going to be there, and that kind of makes it redundant. You know what? It just doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know why people do this. First honorable mention is Kano and her vermilion eye technique. This probably would have made the list if it didn't have the drawback of like 3 or 4 uses in a lifetime max before you go blind. So yeah, it's pretty strong, but it's kind of like a one-time thing, which made its drawbacks just too bad to actually make the list. I also want to mention Giyume's stone breathing stone skin ability, which is a defensive breathing form that he uses to react and block Muzan's blood demon arts, and he does this while in base form against full power Muzan no less. I honestly think you could throw this somewhere in the list, but Giyume is also insanely strong, so maybe it's more of a testament to his power, but I just wanted to mention how cracked this ability is, because when Muzan uses this blood demon art, he is yet to be poisoned. Anyways, back to number 5, and this is the only spot on the list that I have labeled as a tie because I couldn't decide which one was better, and I didn't want to exclude either, and the 6 best breathing forms in Demon Slayer isn't really a catching title. The first form of this tie is Rengoku's ninth form, self-titled Rengoku. Rengoku infamously used this form to clash with one of Akaza's most powerful abilities in Annihilation type. Now, this didn't go as Rengoku planned, but he was still able to slash up a good bit of Akaza while being severely battle damaged from his previous clash with Akaza. And the most important information we get about this technique is the explanation in the Rengoku Gaiden chapters, Stories of Water and Flame, where he uses it to absolutely evaporate Lower Moon 2, ending his lineage forever. ever. We get some narrator dialogue of what the form actually does, and it states the striker devotes his full body and spirit and his very life to a full power slash. The force can bore into any substance and burn it. Now we know in Demon Slayer total concentration breathing can be used to amplify certain parts of your body, not just your whole body at the same time. We know this because when Tanjiro uses thunder breathing, he says he has to focus on his legs and build up strength necessary to burst forth. So what this dialogue about the ninth form implies to me is that the user is using the absolute upper limits of breathing throughout their entire body to strengthen this form to its maximum power. The bore into any substance part is a bit interesting and maybe hyperbolic, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. Our other spot at number 5 is Giyu's Dead Calm, or 11th form, Lull. This form is straight up faster than the user's normal reactive ability, and also allows the user to block any incoming blows in their immediate area. We know this technique is faster than the user's normal combat and reaction speed because of Giyu's use of it against Akaza's final assault. When Mark, Giyu, and Akaza face off, Giyu gets to the point of exhaustion where his normal strikes are getting outsped by baseline Akaza punches. Giyu was too slow in this fatigue state to react to another basic Akaza punch that probably would have killed him if Selfless State Tanjiro didn't interfere, and because of Tanjiro's interference, Akaza decides to use his strongest form, Chaotic Afterglow, and Giyu uses Dead Calm to mitigate a good portion of it. This is impressive because Giyu says this attack is even faster than before, meaning it's probably faster than Akaza's Blood Demon arts, which are faster than his regular punches, which Giyu couldn't even react to literally just panels before this. But all of a sudden with Dead Calm, he's reacting to a massively faster attack and mitigating the damage from it. Rengoku's form seems to be the ultimate form of offensive breathing, and Giyu's the ultimate form of defensive ability, and for that I decided to put them both here at number 5. Coming in at our number 4 spot, we have a form that I'm not even going to try to pronounce in fear of being called a goofy goober if I get it wrong, so I'm just going to refer to it as Thunder Breathing 7th form. In Zenitsu's fight with upper rank 6 Kaigaku, he isn't really able to do anything to keep up with him and seems to just be minorly inferior to Kaigaku, but with this form he completely surpasses his already extremely fast Thunderclap and Flash in a manner so fast that Kaigaku didn't even see what had happened to him. I don't really have too much to say about this form besides the fact that it's extremely fast, and because Thunder Breathing focuses on your legs, it leads me to presume that this form could be faster than Flame Breathing 9th form. On top of this, Zenitsu was just inferior to Kaigaku and now is perception blitzing him. This ability seems to just be a higher speed tier than the same user if they were to use the 9th form. Another benefit of this form that makes it potentially better than the 9th form is the fact that the user can use it at any point in aerial combat. Now, obviously Demon Slayers can't fly, but we see as early as the Kidnapper's Bog arc, a really weak, relatively speaking, Tanjiro can leap 2 stories high. So Demon Slayers obviously have the ability to fight while in aerial combat, especially if they're at the levels that Zenitsu is here, or if they're just outright strong Hashira. Zenitsu, with gravity working against him as he's falling, is able to use this form to propel himself upward with seemingly no downside to the speed of this attack. Given this extra utility and the likelihood that it's just outright faster than an ability like the 9th form, I think it's fair to have this as the number 4 spot. At our number 3 spot, we have Shinobu's Dance of the Centipede, or 100-leg zigzag form. This form makes the user seemingly get a dramatic speed boost and move in an unpredictable manner, making it insanely difficult to counter. Doma thinks to himself that this ability is fast and that he can't predict her attack. Unpredictability is one of the most overpowered hexes in the verse for breathing forms, just by what we've been shown other characters can do with it. For example, Obanai's attacks are noted to be unpredictable in the fanbook, and this can help explain why he was too slippery for Muzan to tag. Tanjiro's Solar Heat Haze ability is stated in the fanbook to be unpredictable as well, and he was straight up able to slash Akaza's neck with it when he made no meaningful progress in the fight before this once Akaza activated his compass. Shinobu Shinobu ultimately used this ability to pin Doma to the ceiling, which is extremely impressive given two things. Firstly, Doma was still able to track her movements, as he notes twice about how she's moving. First about her zigzag pattern, and second about how she's coming in low. And the next point is he proceeds to throw out two different attacks that both miss, and even through all this, Shinobu was still able to hit Doma without taking any damage and pin him to the ceiling. Obviously, Shinobu isn't faster than Doma normally, and despite her getting tracked and attacked initially here, the unpredictability of this form allowed her to straight up ignore that aspect and still critically injure her opponent. This is just better than the previous offensive forms we talked about, as they're extremely fast and powerful, but with something like Dance of the Centipede, the user is not only fast, but also extremely unpredictable, helping them overcome just huge speed disadvantages or speed gaps. Similar to the previous spot, we have another form that's incredibly hard to predict. It's Muichiro's 7th form. What the technique specifically does is use fluctuating speeds to confuse the opponent, and the narrator specifically mentions that its top speed is even faster than Gyoko's, meaning that this ability not only allows one to confuse the opponent, but also achieve a normally unreachable speed for the user. So it's like a speed boost plus unpredictability. And it should be noted that Muichiro's just regular mist breathing was about on par with full power Gyoko before this, and now with the 7th form he's just outright perception blitzing Gyoko. Like, Gyoko has no idea what happened, and one cut and his head's off. Now you might be wondering why I have it above Shinobu's Dance of the Centipede, since they seem very similar in actual function, and it's one very minor difference which I think makes it stronger. It's the fact that while using this form, Muichiro's breathing style creates mist and fog. Now obviously this mist or fog isn't real, but it doesn't really matter if it's real or not, because the opponent will think that it is real, and fog or mist can just obscure the opponent's vision, which would make it even harder to predict than normal. We see when Muichiro uses this ability on Gyoko, bro is just contemplating life, and it's a bit difficult to see how dense or thick the fog is here, so maybe there's some variation. And if you don't think this would be that helpful, then realistically I could see Shinobu's form and this form just being tied, and I think that would also be fine, as they're both extremely unpredictable and extremely fast. Coming in at our number 1 spot, to absolutely no one's surprise, is the 13th form. Now this is kind of cheating if you don't think the 13th form is actually a form, because it's like a combination of forms to make a new form. But I mean, it's called the 13th form. Form is in the name, you know, so I don't know. I'm just gonna put it as one singular form. Every overpowered sun breathing ability is basically wrapped up nice and neat into one package here. You do each form of sun breathing, all 12 in a row, and you get the 13th form. This includes extremely busted abilities like Solar Heat Haze, which is stated to be extremely difficult to predict, as I alluded to earlier, Beneficent Radiance, which just gives the user a dramatic speed boost, and possibly the best sun breathing form, the Fake Rainbow technique or Mock Sun technique, which allows the user to instantly make a clone of themselves via sun breathing and reposition their real body for an attack. This is the move that Infinity Castle Tanjiro used on base form Akaza that completely shook him, causing both Akaza and Giyu to get flashbanged by what Tanjiro just accomplished. It's also stated in chapter 77 that the better an opponent's vision is, the more clear the illusion is, and it's created by the high speed and twist spin the user does. The 13th form has all these moves and 9 other forms performed in a row to be consolidated into one big juicy form. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention how Yoriichi, the first time he ever even completed the 13th form, completely eviscerated the Demon King in an instant. Is it cheating to have 13th form as the number 1 spot? Probably. Yeah, probably. I'm sure I may have missed something in this video. Maybe you can make an argument for some other breathing forms that I didn't talk about, maybe beast breathing. Maybe you think serpent breathing's crazy, I don't know. There's just a lot of really strong forms in the series. I think the best case you can make is Guillaume Stoneskin being somewhere on here. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you agree, disagree, what your list would be, and peace.